Hello, everybody. Let's talk about why grievances occur. And grievances are, simply stated, a complaint. And they're a complaint between two parties, usually between management and unions, but oftentimes other entities will use a grievance or an arbitration even when there isn't a union involved. For instance, they may allow employees to state claims or comments, and they may table it as a grievance. So a grievance is really an issue that has arisen. And the reason we have grievances is it's a complaint process. It's a process that somebody can utilize with the hope that they can have a common understanding or even a resolution to it. First thing that you should know about grievances is they occur because the relationship isn't working. At the time it becomes a grievance, that means that any informal processes have been exhausted and they feel that it has to move to a formal type of process. Even when a grievance may have as the first step some kind of informal resolution, it really is a step where you're moving it into a complaint resolution process. So grievances in those organizations that have a lot of grievances, what occurs is that there's a breakdown in the relationship. They can't resolve issues without going through a formal process. And it's a harbinger of dangerous times, I think, for organizations. I started out an organization some years ago, and within about a 2-year period, they had 28 to 30 grievances, and that's an unhealthy amount, but it's also an astronomical amount that you would have that many complaints. Every single one of them was by one union, and the issues were so innocuous, but still they utilized the process. Why? There's a number of reasons that people would file a grievance and file a complaint. Sometimes it's to show that it's a bad place to work, even when it's not. Just by virtue of having that many grievances and complaints, you may assume, wow, something's not right if they have that many types of complaints. So you may see that quite often. And again, the issue has to be, does that necessarily mean that there's a significant number of grievances and that it's a bad place to work? Not necessarily. But grievances occur because you failed, in addition to the relationship not being conducive, that you failed to follow the agreed upon ground rules, whatever the rules are, and there's an unreasonableness of one side or another. Again, going back to a place that I worked in the unreasonableness, we had a representative who was very, very difficult to deal with. I always say that in order to have a conducive relationship, to forestall any type of issues, complaints, somebody has to be reasonable and rational. And when somebody's not reasonable and rational, you're inevitably going to have conflicts. It's going to lead to consternation and certainly difficulties within these relationships. And so if you have issues with ground rules or rules that aren't being followed, if you have unreasonableness on one side or the other, or if you just have two individuals or two entities that simply can't get along with each other, then it's going to lead to a significant number of complaints and issues, and that's also going to lead to grievances if you have that formal process within your organization. There's ways that you can resolve grievances, and we'll save that for another discussion. But I really want to reiterate at this discussion that you have to be able to create a relationship where if there are issues that arise, it doesn't move farther into the realm of a formal process where both sides have to try to negotiate and come to some agreement. You really want to develop the relationship where you can go to the other side and say, this is the issue, can you help me resolve it? I have found that when you have that kind of relationship and both sides are reasonable and rational, it's almost impossible to have a contentious type of working relationship, and that contentious type of working relationship forestalls any type of productivity, and you have a high level of grievances. Hope all's well, everybody.